for our final segment today, it's an honor to bring you back to a project that we have been pleased to be using for about the past 10 years. So 10 years ago, AFTD wanted to make a short movie that would truly drive home the emotional impact of this disease and the impact that it has on families. We connected with Joe Becker and 4 families who were determined to share their experience to benefit others. The resulting film remains an enduring component of AFTD's awareness efforts, even a decade later. The film is called It Is What It Is, and we're pleased to bring it to you this afternoon.
Hi, I'm Beth Walter, Board Chair of the Association for Frontotemporal Degeneration. Several years ago, I lost my husband to one of the frontotemporal diseases. As a way to give meaning to this gut-wrenching experience, I became passionate about raising awareness and finding a cure. Frontotemporal degeneration refers to a group of progressive brain diseases that attack and ultimately destroy a person's ability to talk, think, walk, make decisions, and show emotion, the very qualities that make us who we are. There are no treatments and no cures for these devastating diseases. Symptoms start gradually and are often confused with other illnesses. Few people understand the impact FTD has on patients and families. But there are many reasons for hope. Research is expanding rapidly. Scientists are learning more all the time. They are identifying targets for drug treatments, and the first medications are now entering clinical trials. The key to continuing this progress is awareness. For too long, families have had to describe the impact of FTD all on their own. This film signals a change. We want people facing these diseases to know they are no longer alone. It Is What It Is weaves together the stories of 4 families affected by FTD. Each journey is unique, but the experiences described here are common to many who grapple with these diseases. These stories are heart-wrenching, and they compel us to action. The future holds great promise for better understanding and remarkable scientific breakthroughs. But it all starts with the courage and devotion of those who know these diseases firsthand. It is only by seeing the faces and hearing the stories of FTD that you will appreciate how much needs to be done. I'm urging you to learn more about frontotemporal degeneration, get involved, and support AFTD so that together we can change the future.
We like to go running together, and so he was riding his bike, and I was running next to him. I will always remember the picture of his shadow that I could see ahead of me on the pavement, because I thought, God, that's exactly what it's like. I have the shadow of this person who's still with me and walking around with me.
Bruce Kuhn. Known him since I was 14 and he was 16. He was a farm boy, and I was best friends with his sister. And this is no lie, the second I saw him, I said, that's the man I'm gonna marry.
Chris was a professor at UT Computer Science Department for 24 years.
I mean, the only thing I truly remember is her just walking around the house and just laying in bed. Because I don't really know what it's really like to have a mom in the house.
That's what my kids keep saying to me. Why did you get your silly brain, Daddy? Why?
My father came to visit us at Christmas of 2002. And as he was leaving, he said, I think something's not right.
I knew that he was emotionally withdrawing from me. And what did it was the fact that he had been promoted for a job that was then taken away from him. I looked at him and I said, something is wrong with you. Because at that point, I had his job, I had his parents in town, who on the second day, his mother turned to me and said, who is that man in this house?
And then when I started to find out through the accountant of his business that there were serious issues, and he just kept saying, no, everything's fine. I just have to go and collect this check, and everything will be fine. And every day he said, I just have to go and get the check. And it just never existed.
Finally, Alex had come to me and said, I can't remember the last time Mom said she loved me or gave me a hug and a kiss. When I went to Michele and told her that, she said, well, I'll get to it.
In 2006, I was going to tell my husband a story, and there was some part of the story was a life jacket, but all of a sudden I could not say the word life jacket. And then I tried to describe it, but I couldn't describe it at all. And so Christopher and I both looked at each other and said, "What is going on?"
And then what happened is there was socially inappropriate behaviors with friends of mine, girlfriends. So the anger built up. And an anger that was so deep-seated, I could barely even look at him.
I said, I am not starting 2006. I'm not doing this again. We cannot do this again. I said, you go to a doctor or I'm filing for divorce.
Being with a friend who is a physician, and he said, Michele, I told my wife that if I was acting like Jeff, she needed to get me on a plane and take me to a medical academic center.
I just knew it wasn't him. And I knew that something was wrong when he started getting these body tremors. I would say to him, do you know when one of those is coming? And he said, yeah, it feels like an electric shock in my head.
And so she sent me to a very well-known neurologist, and she said, you don't have a memory problem, you have a language problem.
So I remember calling my father-in-law from the car saying, you know, we know what's going on. She's depressed, so we can fix this.
So we went to a psychiatrist. Psychiatrist, yep, it's definitely anxiety. I think it's a little bit more pronounced. We're gonna put him on medication, and his obsessive compulsive behaviors just exploded after that.
The tipping point was the way she was treating the kids. Michele took him to a movie theater. The movie started and she just left. I said to Michele, what were you thinking? And she said, I didn't like the movie.
He would literally walk 8 hours a day in our neighborhood, just in circles. Little by little, he would bring things back home, a kid's bike that he saw laying in a yard, and I'd have to go take it back to wherever he got it. And then it got to the point where one day he pulled up in the driveway with another person's vehicle. And I said, where did you get that car? He said, I don't know.
So after that, we had an MRI done. And, you know, the technician was looking for masses for, you know, cancer or a tumor. So they read the MRI and they said, hey, everything's fine with Mrs. Brown.
And I thought it was a tumor. I'd give anything for it to be a tumor. I'd give anything for it to be something that they could go in and cut out. I could never imagine that he would be losing his brain.
It was May 28th of 2008. The doctor has to see me first by myself. And just by the look on his face, I knew it wasn't going to be good news.
The doctor said, this is the issue. It's frontal lobar degeneration, known as FTD. It's probably, you know, 7 to 10 years. And I said, what do you mean 7 to 10 years? And she said, well, that's the length of the disease. And I said, then what happens? She said, well, you know, she'll pass away.
I remember it was like time stood still. And I think I said, no, that's not possible. That's not an option. And he said, we can treat the symptoms. We can make it easy on you.
Michele was there with me, and Michele said, let's go to Costco. We got to go shopping at Costco.
I still had hope that there were plenty of good days left ahead for us. But then the next thought that crossed my mind was, this is the best day that there's going to be with him.
My neighbor once described me as scorched earth, which felt very right. The fire has come through and everything is black and ashen, and the life that I was going to live has died and is gone, and there are green buds of new life coming up everywhere.
I usually drive down on Sunday mornings, you know, right before lunchtime, and get there, and sometimes she's laying in bed, and, you know, usually rub her back, and then get her up and go walking outside in the courtyard or go to the TV viewing room.
We're in the peculiar situation of both having brain diseases. Chris has an FTD disease, primary progressive aphasia, and I was diagnosed with Parkinson's in March of this year. And so we're in this hysterical position of being patient and caregiver. You know, she for me for her.
The boys, who are just 5, they have been really interested in reading that body book. One time in particular, Josh wanted to know where on this picture was Daddy's silly brain. Where on the brain was Daddy's silly brain? And so I pointed, to the frontal lobe part of the brain, and the black squiggly lines. I said, Daddy's brain has bigger lines than this. That's what makes Daddy's brain silly. And Nick said, what does that mean? Why are his thicker? And I said, because it's space. Because Daddy's brain is going away. And Josh sat up straight in the bed. And he turned and he looked at me and he said, if your brain goes away, you die. And he started sobbing. And I'm scratching his back and I said, it's gonna be okay, Josh, it's gonna be okay, it's gonna be okay. And Nick pointed his finger like this in my periphery, I could see it. And so I turned and I looked at Nick and he said, are you gonna die? They bring up death way more than any preschooler should. And I don't know how to undo that.
My older son graduated from high school last year, and she should have been there for that. She didn't go to his high school graduation. She wasn't able to go. She was in a facility. And I remember he said to me, Dad, can I borrow your camera? He said, I want to go to Mom's facility and I want to take a picture of her with me in my cap and gown.
Now I have a mixture of guilt and just real sadness. All that time I spent yelling at him and being angry for things that were beyond his control, I didn't have a chance to say goodbye to him.
I remember talking to another family, believe it or not, in this neighborhood, whose husband has this, and they said, he has frontotemporal dementia. And I just remember like the hair on my neck standing up going, oh my God, somebody else has this horrible disease. And then becoming involved with AFTD and the caregiver groups and people around the country. It's like, we all are part of this club and we're trying to make the most of it.
What we've come to realize is most people with brain diseases rarely get diagnosed on a timely basis. Well, we thought he was stressed. We thought he was tired. We thought it was old age. We thought he couldn't hear as well. We thought he couldn't see as well. Yada, 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 yada. We thought. And then you find out that in all the time that you thought that, the precious time of life, or what remained of your precious life, slipped away like water through your fingers. And boy, would we like to play a role in changing that.
I think it's the real gift of his parents moving, leaving their home of 39 years and moving to our street. They have opened their doors to Jeff so that increasingly there are dinners that he has with just them. Increasingly there are nights that he spends the night over at their house, and to slowly prepare for his departure. To begin, I collapse our kitchen table so it's just the 3 kids and me, and we can have those meals together right now. And the reason that I'm doing this, the reason that I'm torturing myself to sort of live into this future without Jeff on a daily basis is because I need to be ready to be there for them when it's their turn.
It's been a year since my older son has seen his mother, and the younger 2 haven't seen her in about 6 months. But we do know that she was a good person, she was a good mother, she was a good wife, this disease stole it all. Stole it from her, stole it from this family, and we're just struggling to get through it.
I had the diagnosis of primary progressive aphasia, but I didn't, know what to do with it. And I was so excited that they had a brain donation, because when I died, then they would see if they could learn from my brain.
Bruce and I had actually been divorced, and I started thinking maybe that was the beginning of the disease, which would have been about 12 years ago. Bruce grabbed my hand and looked at me, and he said, "Would you marry me again?" I said, "Well, why would you want to do a full thing like that for?" He said, "Because I think there's something wrong with me." And I said, "Well, yeah, let's do it then. We've been talking about it forever." So I got his diagnosis on May 28th, and we remarried May 31st.
Jeff doesn't say I love you anymore. He doesn't tell me how he feels. He can't articulate that anymore. He just looks at me and he says, "I'm so glad we're doing this life together." That's what he says over and over. "I'm so glad we're doing this life together." I told him when we were in Vermont, he and I went running, and we stopped at a precipice called Heaven's Bench. We were walking hand in hand, and I said to him, if I knew then everything that I know now of what was going to happen to us, I still would have said yes. And he stopped, and he doesn't show emotion anymore, and he just started sobbing. And we stood and we cried. And then he said, "I'm so glad I'm doing this life with you." Because it's true. I wouldn't trade any minute of it. That's it.
I don't know what to say. I could want the life to be better, but it is what it is. That's a good saying. It is what it is.
Well, we're going to end the afternoon with a wonderful discussion from some folks who've been involved in the film. And so joining me now is Joseph Becker, the director of the film. As a writer, producer, and director, Joe's work has been honored with numerous awards throughout his 3+ decade career, including national Emmys, Academy Award nominations, and Golden Reels at the New York, Montreal, and Sydney film festivals. Hi, Joe. Also joining us are some faces that might be familiar to you from the film. Bill Brown, Christopher Yurkanan, and Michele Van Son Neill, 3 of the caregivers who graciously let Joe into their homes 10 years ago to document their FTD journeys. Welcome to all of you.
Voila.
Voila.
There he is.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Always making an entrance. Thank you all for being with us today. It's just a wonderful way to end out this World FTD Awareness Marathon, because this was and has been one of the most enduring awareness pieces that this organization has. And so I have some questions I'm going to try to swirl around to you. We have to watch time, but I really want to ask each of you to reflect back a little bit on the last 10 years. And so much has happened in your lives over that time period, and so much has happened in our lives working in the field, that I think it's a great way to kind of weave the two together to finish out our day. So Joe, I want to start by asking you, since you were the prime mover behind this project, this film is really the most viewed content on AFTD's YouTube channel. We've had more than 110,000 views over the time that it's been posted. What do you think has made this movie so effective in reaching audiences and raising awareness of this disease?
Well, wouldn't you know, I've been asking myself that same question for 10 years. when I first previewed it with you, Sharon, and Susan Dickinson, I really felt that day that I'd lobbed a hand grenade into your laps, because I thought the film was important, but I was totally unsure whether anybody else would see it that way. And frankly, I was terrified that that would not be the case. Well, as you said, a lot of people have commented on it online. And I've received dozens of letters and emails from people over the years. And I just want to read a snippet of one that I got recently that I think maybe answers that question. And this gentleman said, I want to send you a note as I've recently revisited It Is What It Is. The short film stands easily as the best introduction to FTD I've found, because it captures the essence of the loss, the confusion of everyone, the complete collapse and the heartbreak this disease brings to families wrestling with it. I've seen the film many times now over the years, and it affects me anew every time, as if I hadn't seen it before. So, one man's opinion. For me, it's really the honesty and the candor that the Browns, the Coons, the Van Sons, and the Yurkanans display in that film that people latch on to. They open themselves up in a very big way, and people with FTD and their families dealing with this relate to that, and they understand that. Now, I'll also say that the film, It Is What It Is, it gets its title. It's the last words that Jeff Van Son said to me that day, the last words in the film. And that's part of it too, because I think it is what it is. It's in the moment. And that's the way people who have FTD live with the disease, moment to moment, day to day. Good days, bad days, horrible days. But of course, that's only a little slice of their life, and life goes on. So for me, I have an enormous debt of gratitude to these folks who let me and my crew into their house and their lives that day. And it's tremendous to have Bill and Michele and Christopher here to tell us what happened next.
Thanks, Joe. I'm going to move to Mr. Brown. So, Bill, in the film, you refer to your experience with FTD as joining a particularly unwanted club. In your words, a really shitty club. I'm wondering, can you tell us, what did that mean to you then, and what does that mean to you now?
Referring to the club, I was referencing the horrible disease and how it ravaged and took away everything that Michele stood for, her loving mother nature, her wife, everything she stood for. It stripped it away. So I know it was difficult at the time to be part of something that we were coming to grips with. And that's why I refer to it as a club, because having reached out to other people, been contacted by other people, they're experiencing the same thing. And the AFTD community really helped us navigate that treacherous time for us, through the love and support, the resources, really helped make it as less painful as it could have been. So we came together with the help of FTD. We started a caregivers group. We reached out to other families. We started a fundraiser, and it all made it worthwhile, realizing that, you're not alone. And it really does take a village to get you through this, with your family, with your friends, with complete strangers. And we really felt that. So I know all those out there suffering, things will get better. I mean, I know that you're spinning every day to figure out which end is up with yourselves, with your loved ones, with your kids. But no, at the end of the day, there's a lot of resources out there that'll help you. It'll help you navigate things. So, and at the time it was the shitty club, and I know it was bleeped in the film, and I don't know if that was you or Joe who bleeped it out, but I'm not going to hold it against either of you. So, but once Michele passed away in 2012, we were able to finally realize and celebrate who she was, because the last years of her life was this person we didn't really know. So there was closure, but there was celebration. And in a strange way, we kind of felt like we were whole again as a family and really able to realize what she did. I mean, the kids would say, I remember when Mom used to help me with that homework assignment. Or Alex would say, Mom used to make pancakes with me and she did this. And to this day, on holidays and celebrations, Alex makes those pancakes and she always references what her mom did. So I know people out there watching the film, it's terrible, but there will be good times again. So just hang on there, and FTD will go away, but AFTD is a community and we'll help you get there. So, and it's interesting, and Sharon, you know this. I mean, I was very involved with AFTD and I stepped away once Michele passed away. And I did it, I think, for myself. I did it for my kids. I had career changes and stuff. So I've been involved from a distance, and the film, through Joe's storytelling, people have reached out to me, complete strangers who have seen it online and searched social media to find me. And I'm always willing to lend a hand, a sympathetic ear. I've met with some people. I had a client with Toyota who had a good friend who said her husband's acting strange. And he was actually diagnosed with FTD. And I helped her navigate the whole bureaucracy and everything that you don't want to realize happening. So, at the end of the day, I don't think I'm ever going to get at my shitty club membership card. So, I'm always going to help out and lend a helping hand. So this is the greatest thing I'll ever do, is being involved with this. So
thank you, sir.
Thank
I think
you.
that, what the club is, it's not wanted, but it is really supportive for people. And the isolation that characterizes your experiences, that characterizes this disease, really is unparalleled, I think. And I think it's both a driver of the glue that holds people together and the resilience in many ways that people find and draw from in the community. So thank you for your comments and your participation.
You're welcome.
Michele, as everybody could plainly see in the film, your family was really young when FTD came to be part of it. I think Jeff was 38 when he was diagnosed, and he died 3 years later. Your twin boys were 7. Your daughter was 5. I also know that now you're remarried and part of a really vibrant, active family with 5 kids in it. So when you look back at how you addressed Jeff's illness with your young family, what stands out as having been most beneficial for where they all are now?
I would, the first thing that came to mind for me about what was most helpful then, Rita actually already talked about in the previous section, and I don't want to reiterate the importance of self-care. So rewind and watch what she said, because it's dead on, especially when you have young children who are dependent on you, and then your spouse becomes so dependent on you, or your mother, whoever it is. So I won't reiterate that, but I will say too that when Marianne, Joe, I so appreciate the way that you did enter our lives and the sensitive, thoughtful questions that you asked. It was a gift to me. When Marianne said, "This is the last best day," that changed the way that I did caregiving, not just for Jeff, but for my whole family. So I would say, Sharon, answer to your question. Number one, I realized I had to seize the day. And we did ridiculous things. We live in Orlando, so it was easy, but I got us Disney passes. And so most of our children's memory of him is at Disney. And we had no business doing that at the time, but I felt that I had to capture all the goodness of Daddy and fun times for them. And I also brought to share just another example. This is a mug that it's a Christmas mug that I brought Jeff to a pottery place. And so his handprint is on the mug. And each of the 3 children, it says, "Love Daddy." And then each of the 3 children have their name on it. And every year, the kids put their hand to see how they're growing into it. So seizing the time that you do have with your loved one, as sick as they might be, or as crazy as they might be acting, recognizing that their memory, their spirit is going to live on in your family, and you can really get ahead and make some traditions now because they're here now. And so, the second thing that I did particularly with the kids, is that we talked about it. We talked about it a lot. And rewatching that film, it was hard when the boys put 2 and 2 together. I didn't want them to put that together so quickly. But then we would talk about it, and we'd talk about how we felt, and we would talk about how difficult it was. And I didn't hide when I was crying. I would let them see that I was sad. And I would tell them, "I'm really sad about Daddy's silly brain." And I always coupled that with, "and I'm going to take care of you." Because it's really easy for children to want to take care of the well parent. And so it's important that we caregivers reveal and be as transparent as we can be to model healthy grieving, but also to remind them that they're going to be okay, and that I'm the mom, and I'm going to take care of you. I think that making that emotional safe space for the children early on made it possible as teens for them to be able to talk about it now. I was in the car with my 15-year-old. He was driving and I was in the passenger seat to a swim meet. And he just kind of brought up, like, "This is my first swim meet of high school. And I wonder if I would have been a swimmer if Daddy was here." So I think when children lose a parent, the grieving doesn't happen then and stop. It gets revisited at other times. And so making a safe place for your kids to be able to say, "Hey, I'm feeling this is happening." It helps them continue to be healthy as they move through life experiences. So seize the day and talk about it. For sure.
Thank you. It's so lovely to hear how you've continued to integrate the healing from the disease really into your family, and each new stage that your kids go through. We know that this disease affects a whole family, and families can be at so many different stages of development that the process doesn't stop. The process continues. And I think you're each speaking to the ways that process has continued and has been integrated in ways that you're comfortable with within your own families, in ways that make sense to you, but also ways that continue to be healing over time. We recently did a publication on grief in FTD. And the grief in FTD, as you all know so well, starts way before the person passes away. Mm-hmm. Starts with the diagnosis. And so that aspect of grief is something that people deal with throughout the entire journey. And the journey doesn't end when the person passes away. We talk to people who still are finding out a diagnosis after the person has passed away, and they start to deal with the disease that they didn't really understand at all while they were alive. So I think that the ways that you spoke to integrating those pieces into your lives as you were in the midst of it, in the thick of it, and shared with Joe, and the ways that you continue to do that is just so valuable for other people to see and hear about. So thank you for once again sharing your family with us. And Christopher, so you've been involved with us in awareness in a lot of different ways since the film. And in the film, you spoke in a very impassioned way and made a call for each of us that we each have a role to play in changing this disease and changing the trajectory and the reality and the outcome of the disease. How has your sense of what will be needed to do that changed over time? What's your perspective on what's needed now to continue to change the reality of this disease for people facing it today?
Big question. Let's see if I can find a big answer. You know, we have operated as caregivers. We have been the agent of care being delivered to our patients. You know, we also have delivered, in addition to care, excuse me, I lost my point. We are the agents of change as well for them. And we manage we are the collectors of their care. We manage their protection. We manage what they're going to do with their remaining life. We care. This is in addition to caregiving. Our job is to maximize the quality and quantity of their life, the effectiveness, the love, even the clout that we deliver on their behalf. And we manage how they spend their precious remaining time. So I would like to encourage us, because I've witnessed a great deal of the caregiving side, that we look at not only the past and present, but the future of what we deliver to them and what we do on their behalf. Thank you. You know, I think it's critical for us to develop ways of making their remaining life richer. So how do we contribute to a faster diagnosis? How do we contribute to an earlier diagnosis? And one way is obviously what AFTD does. We try to get a more uniformly informed body of shitty club members. Spread the joy, spread
I think when it comes to raising awareness, the other theme that's been thread throughout the whole day is the importance of every individual voice. And you each, portrayed different voices, different perspectives of the disease up front, and continue to do so. And I wonder, we have about 1 minute. What would your plea or your pitch be to other families and friends of those folks and the circles emanating out from that in terms of how to use their voice to help us change this trajectory?
Well, to use their voice, you have to get their eyes, so that they see what's happening. They see what's needed. I taught everyone coming into our house to smile. The smile would make all the difference in the world, rather than come in and sort of look at Chris and scrunch up your face and into a prune and say, well, how is she? You might burst into tears. Mm. So just getting through having other eyes look at her and teach them how to look at her. Raise the level of discourse, raise the level of conversation. And it made agents of change out of our patients.
And family members. I think about when Nick and Josh turned 9, they had a birthday party, and
their whole, instead of presents, they asked if everybody could bring money for the FTD scientists. So I think that I love the hot shot challenge that's going on. That's, sort of corporate wide. And I think there are things that each family can do, to Christopher's point about our particular loved one and our family, that there can be a unique expression of raising awareness and money to help close those gaps. Yeah, for sure.
So thank you all. I do have to cut us off because time's moving on. Thanks for being part of our family. And you all know that this project really kicked off awareness for the organization. So your voices will always have a special place in the work that we do. And I hope that we get to do something like this again soon. So thanks so much for being with us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good seeing everybody.